Are you old enough to remember the wrestling on World of Sport on a Saturday afternoon? If you are, you're in for a treat as we meet the people hoping to bring wrestling back to the big time in the UK. We sent Rugby League star Eorl Crabree to go and check it out.
The Town Hall in Leeds. It's a grand old place.
I'm Eorl Crabree, and I used to be a rugby player, but I'm not the only sportsman in my family. My uncle used to wrestle here back before I was even born, but back then it used to be a little bit louder.
Up until the 1980s, wrestling was one of the most popular sports in the country.
And my uncle Eorl Crabree, better known as Big Daddy, was one of the biggest stars.
You can't even put into words to anybody who wasn't around at that time what a megastar and just like a national treasure Shirley was. You can't put it into it. It doesn't matter what anybody thinks, that unless you were living through that he was on every entertainment show. I mean, he was just in the conscious of the working class public.
We're not talking about little pokey clubs when we talk about it. We're talking about Liverpool Stadium, Royal Albert Hall and places like that. We sold them out not once a year, twice a year. We sold them out monthly, sometimes weekly.
In the 1980s, things changed. British wrestling was taken off our TV screens. Wrestling went from selling out venues like this to relative obscurity in just a few short months.
Yeah, hard, very hard. It's, you know, if there's no work and no TV, no interest, what can you do?
In America, wrestling has been consistently popular in the years after British wrestling finished on TV. And now, the WWE, the world's biggest wrestling company, has its own British wrestling TV show called NXT UK.
These men and women, most of them are unbelievable at what they do. And it's just, if you're good enough, you know, people will watch.
One man that knows a thing or two about British wrestling is Darren Ward, an ex-wrestler who went under the name Tarzan Boy Darren. He has a vast knowledge of wrestling and has a museum's worth of memorabilia in his attic.
We are surrounded.
There's over 5,000 posters.
5,000 posters. A couple of beauties behind me as well with Blondie Crabtree, which is which was one of my personal favourites.
From what I can gather, that is Eorl Crabtree's first ever professional contest. I think it's 3 days after his 22nd birthday.
I don't think you realise, even for me, just how big wrestling was.
In the 1960s, the National Union of Shopkeepers wrote to Joint Promotions and ITV asking them if they could switch the time of the wrestling to a later or a different day because the shops were suffering because of wrestling.
Why was wrestling taken off TV?
I don't really think wrestling had got unpopular. They were putting it on at 12 one Saturday, next Saturday it'd be 1:40, Saturday after 2:10. So the punters had to really pay attention to be able to watch it.
One man who wasn't affected by the wrestling finishing on TV was William Regal, who wrestled alongside Big Daddy before going to find success in America with the WWE.
This is something that didn't affect me, but it affected a lot of people. Greg Dyke, wherever you are, he came into ITV and he decided he didn't want wrestling on TV. It's basically it. You can dress it up however you want. He decided he didn't want working class stuff on ITV anymore.
He thought golf would be better on a Saturday afternoon, and he was trying to gear up for that type of clientele rather than what he thought was wrestling was a big joke.
Fast forward to 2020, and the wrestling in the UK is on its way back up with promotions like Tidal Wrestling in Leeds, putting on high-octane shows in front of excitable crowds. It may not be the Royal Albert Hall, but there's a real excitement and buzz about this place.
If you watched the show just here, just now, this Tidal crowd, so interactive, so much fun. They can sing a song for 20 minutes and you've not even thrown a fist yet.
It's the best time, I think, for British wrestling. Even I would argue, even going back to World of Sport, now is the time, I would say, for British wrestling.
Oh yeah, you've got talent from top to bottom, start of the show to the end of the show.
So how do you become a wrestler? You go to wrestling school?
Grapple Wrestling School in Leeds was started by Paul Clarke in 2011, and it's been producing top-class wrestling talent ever since.
What made you take the plunge and actually start up your own wrestling school?
Coming from Leeds, which is such a big city, and there wasn't a wrestling school there.
Would you say it's a good time right now to be a British wrestler?
Yeah, it's a perfect time now to be a British wrestler. There's a lot of focus on wrestling in the UK now. It's recently back on mainstream telly. The WWE from America are like taking a great interest and signing up a lot of the British guys now.
And his first opponent,
Masked wrestler Ligero was signed up to the WWE in 2018, but he still finds time to help train the next generation of young wrestlers.
WWE was the thing that I always, I came up watching, and it was always like a place I'd wanted to make it to. It took a very long time for it to stop being so surreal that I've now worked there. And even now there are times when I have to sort of take a moment to realise that I work for the biggest wrestling company in the world.
But you still find time to come here and train the future wrestlers.
Yes.
Is that something that's really important to you?
Absolutely. I've been training people now for probably about 8 or 9 years at various different schools. If I can have a part in helping that talent elevate to the next level, then I think that benefits the scene as a whole, and I think if everyone helps each other to grow, then everyone reaps the benefits.
I think it's about time I stepped into the ring.
I'm going to show you a hammerlock variation, Earl. So this hold, I'm going to take left arm up the back, weave your right arm through there, alright? Whack your hand on the chin, and then you just pull like that. That should do you, I think. We've got one of our trainees here, Casey. She's gonna try and apply that hold on you, if that's all right.
Yeah, why not? Let's go for it. I think I stick to Rugby League.
When Casey isn't injuring rugby players, her next match is never too far from her mind.
I'm training today, I'm doing an extra training session tomorrow to get my conditioning up because my opponent is hard working and I've got to beat that in order to beat her. I am feeling so excited to get out there and just start fighting.
We'll find out how Casey gets on a little bit later. The Hull Bonus Arena is here tonight where another ex-Rugby League player, Luke Menzies, aka Ridge Holland, will make his WWE NXT UK debut.
From 8 years old, I remember watching World of Sport reruns with my nan. I think it was on like Men and Movies or something like that. And then I've always wanted to do it. Called the trainer up called Marty Jones, who trained William Regal. 2 days later, flew back, and that was my first wrestling session. And then we've just snowballed to here we are, back in Hull, of all places.
Do you think your Rugby League background's helped that with the physical attributes you already had?
Oh yeah, without a doubt. I think rugby definitely helped me put the right foot forward, and all the bumps, lumps and bruises, it's helped me harden myself like a callus to what we do in the ring.
So what does the future hold for Ridge Holland?
Well, it starts tonight, the debut for NXT UK, so it's probably going to be fun for me but horrible for someone else. We'll just take it match by match and body by body.
So Ridge Holland has hit the ground running, and I for one can't wait to see him wrestle his way to the top. Back at Tidal, and Casey's facing off against a more experienced opponent in Ivy from Sheffield. Well, you can't win them all, Casey. Better luck next time.
Well, things are really looking up in British wrestling, and whilst it may look a little bit different to how it did back in the day, the new breed are giving the likes of Big Daddy a run for the money.